Hello, everyone, and welcome in to the Butt Fumble Sports Daily Show. It is Thursday. We're getting closer to the weekend, and we have a lot of sports to talk about. There's news across the NFL. There's NBA tonight and some news there as well. The NHL only has a couple of games as we get closer to the NHL All-Star Game and that break. And, of course, we have plenty to talk about when it comes to sports betting across college basketball. So great to have you with us, no matter the platform you're watching on. TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Kick. We are live across all of them every single day because that's what Butt Fumble Sports does. We talk sports every single day with you, the best sports fans across all of social media. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit the follow button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're part of this growing community of sports fans that comes together every single afternoon. We're live Monday through Friday at 5 and on the weekend at 12 p.m. Diego's asking a quick question about Wisconsin or Nebraska. I was stuck on that one as well. If I look at the trends, what I would say is I take Wisconsin on the money line. I take Nebraska to cover. I'd bump up the spread points, Diego. I'd probably take Nebraska like at +6, +6.5. But I would take Wisconsin to win. Wisconsin's been the better team. The only thing that has me a little bit in favor of Nebraska on the spread is Nebraska has been really good at home this year. However, historically against Wisconsin, not so good. So I like Wisconsin on the money line, Nebraska to cover what would be a bigger spread than the 1.5 I'm seeing so far today. We are going to give out picks throughout the course of the show. Not a lot going on across the sports world in terms of games tonight. Not a lot in the college basketball, not a lot in the NHL, not a lot in the NBA. So this is definitely going to be a show where we rant more than we give out picks, but we are still giving out picks. So if you have questions, need help with your research, or if you want some of our picks, make sure you tune in with us throughout the course of the show. Of course, if you guys do have any questions, fire away. Across the sports world, we had a couple pieces of news come in today. The first big one, Dan Quinn named the new head coach of the Washington Commanders. This one surprised me a little bit, in part because I thought the Commanders were going to go in an offensive direction. They have that number 2 overall pick. You would have thought they'd want to pair a young quarterback with an offensive-minded head coach. Not with Dan Quinn, but that's exactly what they did. Does it make the Cowboys worse? Yes. Does it improve the defense of the Washington Commanders? Yes. Is it a good move for the future, next 3-4 years of Commanders? I don't think so. Dan Quinn is the next head coach in Washington. It makes sense in terms of stability. It doesn't make sense in terms of forward thinking. Frankly, if we were going to do this, why not just hire Bill Belichick? Why not hire Mike Vrabel? If we're just getting a defensive-minded head coach with a good history, a good track record, and knows what they're doing, why not get 2 guys who have actually had more success than Dan Quinn? I know he made it to a Super Bowl, but he was never Coach of the Year. When he made it to the Super Bowl, obviously they lost after that 28-3 lead that they had over the Patriots. Dan Quinn, to me, is a swing and a miss. I get it. I just don't approve of it. So that's an early take for you guys. What do you guys think about the Dan Quinn hire? Mr. Boomin, what's up? We are doing fantastic because I get to talk sports with you guys. Every day I'm live talking sports with you is a good day in my book, Mr. Boomin. Hope you're having a good one. Jamie Garcia, I do like Wisconsin on the money line. As I mentioned a moment ago, I take Nebraska on a spread. I think Nebraska +6.5. That's really where I want to take it. I know you got to buy up those points to do it. It's just a game that's a little tight for me. Nebraska's been so good at home. Wisconsin historically has been pretty good against Nebraska. Wisconsin is the better team. So I'll take Wisconsin on the money line. Again, if you guys have a topic you want to talk about, hit us up. We love taking calls from you on TikTok Live. So if you want to join the show as a guest, give us your takes on the NFL offseason. Give us your take on the Super Bowl. Get into a conversation about what's going on in the sports world. Hit us up. All about it. Can you shout out my boy Joey? It's his birthday. Joey, what's good? Happy birthday. Hope you have a monster birthday. If you're of age, go out to a bar and have some fun. If you're underage, have some cake or something. Hope you have a wonderful day. And shout out to Joey for his birthday. Shout out to your boy Doe for hitting you up about it. No problem. That's what we're here for. We're here for you guys. So whatever you guys want to talk about. You guys want to talk about fantasy football in 2024? We can do that. You want to talk about bets for tonight's games? I'm all about that. If you just want to rant about what's going on in the sports world or anything else, Butt Fumble Sports is here for you. Diego is asking a quick question about Arizona covering what is a massive spread tonight. let's go take a look at it. We're going to go jump on over to the Outlier app. For all those that are new to the show, Outlier is a sports betting research tool that allows to look at trends, analytics, data, and of course how the public is also betting these games, and that can be very useful. When we get the sense of where the public is and where the sports books are, often gives us a good indication as to where to put our bet down. You're asking specifically about the Arizona Wildcats. They're going up against the Cal Bears team that is not impressive. Here's what I would say though. I would take the Cal Bears on the spread. The public money, it's pretty split in terms of the spread, in terms of number of tickets, but in terms of money being bet, there's more money being placed on the side of the Cal Bears. That actually has me a little bit interested in riding with them. I think I'd rather ride there. Jake, thanks so much for becoming a 5-month subscriber. Jake, what a badass. Great to have you continuing to be a part of this great community. Mr. Nobody, with Anthony and James out, are the Celtics going to go off? This is an easy one for me. I'm going to put this one up on my big board right away. This is actually my Sharps play of the day. I'll just get it out of the way. Celtics money line is a no-brainer for me. Celtics money line is a no-brainer. And frankly, if you wanted to take them on the spread, I would understand it. If you want to take maybe Celtics -8, that would be a really good spot to take them. But Celtics on the money line is my favorite bet of the day. I did that even earlier in the day. Seemed like a really good bet then. Feels like a phenomenal bet now. Majomes, Bosa today, when asked about the Chiefs O-line, they hold a lot. Very interesting. Very interesting. I don't know if I would have given that bulletin board material to the Kansas City Chiefs offense, but it may be Bosa's way of giving a little indication to the referees about how Kansas City plays. I actually posted something really interesting on my Instagram account. I saw this on Twitter. The referee for this game, he favors, for the Super Bowl, he favors the under. Unders are very popular with the referee who's going to be in that game. Too many people are trying to sell me on the offenses in this one already. I like the under. I like the under in this game. The Super Bowl, I'm taking the under. I'll probably buy points up. Let's take a quick look at it over on Outlier and see where the Super Bowl total is currently set at. It's currently set at 47.5. I'd buy that up to 50, and I would take 49ers, Chiefs, under 50. You could take that under 50.5 if you want to be safe with it. But I like the under in that game. Too many people are taking the over. Again, this is something where I want to be on the other side. I don't want to be on the public. So, a lot of tickets coming down on the Chiefs. A lot of tickets coming down on the over. I think for right now, I'd rather be on San Fran, and I'd rather be on the under in that game, in that Super Bowl matchup. Diego, Oregon State plus 15 at 10.5. I'll jump over to it. I have absolutely no idea. I'm not going to lie to you, Diego. Just not about it. There are a lot of bets tonight in which I'm not about it. And this is something where there may be other places on social media that give out sports betting advice, and they'll touch every game. They'll bet on every game. I'll let them have it. But one thing I always want to tell you guys is when there's a bet that I don't feel good about, I tend to keep my money in my pocket. No reason to chase betting, no reason to chase things that you don't have a good indication on. More than happy to look it up for you, but want to make sure you're aware that there isn't a lot in tonight's action that I'm really excited about. I really placed most of my bets on those 4 NBA games. Outside of that, this is definitely going to be a quiet night for me. Feels like a good night to go on a date or go out, hang out with some friends, because when it comes to sports action, just not a lot that gets me excited. We're looking at Oregon State. They're going up against UCLA. Okay, UCLA, a very heavy favorite on the money line, a heavy favorite on the spread. Diego, I wouldn't touch this one. There's only one thing that I kind of want to do. I'm going to move myself over here just so I can pull up this tab. I'm going to go to killersports.com. Oh, wrong one. I'm going to go to killersports.com. Killer Sports is a website I use to look at historical trends between teams. So we're going to look over at how Oregon State has done against UCLA in the past. Maybe that gives us a little indication. This is also giving you guys a bit of a behind-the-scenes look at how I do my research every day. So I'm going to look up UCLA and Oregon State, and I want to see how those two teams have done against each other. So how do we do it? We write in a formula. Oregon State, they're facing UCLA. They're a road dog. Let's take a look at it. So, Good news for all those who are betting UCLA. UCLA has won 8 out of 9 matchups. However, to your point, Diego, Oregon State has actually been very good covering the spread. Oregon State, when they play on the road as a road underdog against UCLA, they are 6-2-1 against the spread. You heard that right. They've actually only failed to cover the spread one time. That was in 2015. They have been very consistently hitting the spread on this. So I don't like it at 10.5. That feels a little bit tight for me. It feels like the sports books are trying to set us up for failure. What I'd actually do is I would take Oregon State at plus 13.5. You can get that at minus 188. That feels like a very strong bet. They've actually done a good job of covering that. They've covered that in 8 of the last 10 games. UCLA has failed to cover that 9 out of the last 10. So I'm willing to put this one up on my big board. This is an in-show research play. That's Oregon State plus 13.5. That's what I would take it at. Diego, there's a little bit of a pullback reveal on how we do it. Danny, thanks so much for giving that kind comment. Loving the podcast, very informative. We do the best we can. We research throughout the day to give you guys the best information possible. Ian, Lakers washed. The Lakers are a mess. The Lakers are a mess. Give me 1 second to rant about the Lakers. I mentioned it yesterday. The Lakers need to make more than just one move. The problem is, we talked about windows in the NFL yesterday. If we talk about windows, championship windows in the NBA, the Lakers window is closed. It's shut. And the reason for that is the roster around LeBron James and Anthony Davis isn't good enough. The West is loaded. The East is stronger than I think people really acknowledge. I don't see how the Lakers can weasel, worm, or climb their way up the Western Conference standings to be a viable seed to be able to make a run in the postseason. I think LeBron James is frustrated by Darvin Ham. I think Anthony Davis, by the way, isn't getting enough credit. Anthony Davis has actually played well this year. He obviously is putting up with a lot. He's played more games this year than he has in the past few, and yet it's still not enough. This Lakers organization, they would be better served blowing up this roster and preparing for a rebuild. Will they do that? No. I mentioned it yesterday. For the Lakers, it's always about championship pursuit versus money. Even when they can't win a title, the idea of having the Staples Center, whatever it is, Crypto.com arena, having that half full, not having the kind of money generating year after year that the Lakers have come to expect, that's what's going to keep them from selling off valuable assets. If I were the Lakers, I'd tear it down and begin the rebuild process. It sounds like even the players they want to go get, DeJounte Murray and others, they're too expensive given the assets the Lakers would be willing to trade. So in my mind, the Lakers should be in rebuild mode. They should be in tear down mode. Do I think Jeanie Buss is going to do it? I don't. And I think it's actually going to delay the Lakers' success over the next few years. Ian, Clippers' new arena is going to be sick. I love it. Inglewood, stand the hell up. I'm so happy the Clippers are finally getting their own arena. No longer the ugly stepchild to the Los Angeles Lakers. They can carve out their own true fan base. They can have their own arena. By the way, they can generate their own money off their arena, a very important point. Steve Ballmer, I think, is one of the best owners in all of sports because his commitment is there. Not just in the enthusiasm that we obviously see when he's sitting courtside, but he is putting dollars behind that enthusiasm. And don't look now. You could argue the Clippers are the best team in the NBA. After they beat the Celtics in Boston, you can make the argument right now that the Clippers are the best team in the NBA. I know they're not number one in the Western Conference standings, but ever since James Harden was acquired, and frankly, ever since they really acclimated him into the starting lineup, T. Lue, brilliant job, the Clippers have been as good a team as anybody in the NBA. Look out. My prediction right now, Clippers, Celtics, NBA Finals. I think it goes 6 or 7. It really comes down to who's healthy in the matchup, but the Clippers are on fire, and they've got a lot going for them. Diego, ASU, Stanford, stuck on this one as well. Let's take a quick look at that over on killersports.com. We're going to look at Arizona State, and we are going to look at Stanford. We'll pull up those two. Oh, I got to fix this. So Arizona State, Stanford, and I want to look, let's jump on back over to Outlier for a second because I want to pull up both of these right here. We're looking at Arizona State and Stanford for the moment. Let me pull up that game really fast. Here we go. The public betting on that. So the public favors Arizona State both on the money line and on the spread. Keep in mind, the under appears to be a very good play on this one as well. But let's look at killer sports. Let's say since season, I don't know. Let's go with since 2010. How about that? So since 2000, we'll make it a little bit smaller of a sample size. Since 2018. Wow, good news for you. Arizona State has covered the spread in 7 of the last 10 meetings between these two teams. Now, if I look at it specifically for the purposes of this game, the Cardinals are on the road, Arizona State at home. So if I say Arizona State as a home favorite, Arizona State 4-0. They've covered the spread 3 out of the last 4 times. I take Arizona State on the money line in this game. Again, Arizona State on the money line appears to be a very good play, at least based on the trends. That's something I want to always keep track of. If we look at Arizona State on the money line, this is a pretty even game. Definitely feels like a coin flip, but if I had to go in one direction, I think I'd go Arizona State on the money line. That's where I would take it based on the trends and data that we look at every single day, Diego. Frost, do you think signing role players, the Eric Spoelstra made good as a trap? Yes. Yes, it is. Frost, it's a brilliant point by you. I think there are certain head coaches across Major League Baseball, managers, NFL, NBA, hockey, who know how to develop talent, who know how to get the most out of their players. That same player goes somewhere else and they underperform. I do think a Bill Belichick for years was able to get more out of guys like Malcolm Butler and maybe J.C. Jackson than other teams who ultimately signed them to larger free agent contracts. Do I think Eric Spoelstra knows how to get the most out of Gabe Vincent or Max Strus or some of these players? 100%. And I think when they go elsewhere, they're expected to maintain that level of production. They're expected to raise their game to maybe starter status. They're not that quality of player. I think Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in all of sports at getting a lot out of lesser talent. And I do think the Lakers and other teams have fallen victim to signing those former Heat players when really wasted money. Nico, what you got for Wisconsin, Nebraska? I mentioned this a couple times already. I would take Wisconsin on the money line. I would take Nebraska on a spread, but only if you're increasing the spread. If you're getting Nebraska at like a +6, +6.5, that's where I really like this. It's going to be a lower scoring game. That's what I would really favor. I think it's a lower scoring game between Wisconsin and Nebraska. Nebraska's been really good at home. Wisconsin's the better team. I'm going to take Wisconsin on the money line. I bet it's a close game, but the free throw shooting at the end has me a little bit concerned. That's why instead of taking it at a +3, I'm trying to get it to a +6. That free throw shooting at the end, I think, makes the difference. Joe's asking about Western Kentucky. Man, let's go check out the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. They face Sam Houston today. 5-point favorites. Very important to know, Joe Rock. Sam Houston Bearcats are a heavy money line, or a heavy underdog in this game. The Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, they're the favorite on the money line. They're the favorite on the spread. I'm putting this one up on my board as well. We will take Western Kentucky on the money line as well. I'm basing that really on the money that's come down on it. Do I care about how the public's betting it? Not so much. I care about how the sharp money is betting it, and the fact that there is so much money being put behind both the money line and the spread tells me something. Usually when there's that much money put behind the same direction, you feel pretty good about it. People who do this for a living, people who spend a lot more money on their sports bets than you and me, they know something that we don't. I'd go with the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers on the money line tonight. Appreciate you guys being with us. Okay, Diego's got one last one for college basketball. I expected you to stay out in the Pac-12. By the way, the Pac-12 is not dead yet, despite what all these college football fans think. Oregon and USC. Here's what I would say. Oregon is the better play. I think Oregon is the better play. But let's dive into the stats a little bit. We're going to go Oregon. We're going to go USC. And we're going to go with a road favorite, an away favorite in this one. Very interesting. Wow, since 2018, Oregon has not been a road favorite against USC. If we just look at road games, Oregon won the last meeting that they had in January of 2022. But other than that, not much I can really glean from this. I tend to lean towards Oregon because of how the money came down, but not a lot of good trends behind this game. So it might be one that I would tend to avoid. If I do go in run direction, Oregon would be the play, Diego. Ian, probably go money line on ASU. I think that's the right one, Ian. Good call. Frost, yep, answered that question. If you guys have a question of your own, hit us up. Love taking your calls as well. If any of you guys have questions and want to join the show as a guest, hit us up. Mr. Boomin, also, do you remember? Of course I do, Mr. Boomin. That's why I'm dying to hear what you like for any of the horse racing action that we have coming up this year, buddy. How do I feel about the Jazz? Mr. Boomin is asking me how I feel about the Jazz tonight. I got Jazz on the money line. Jazz have been a very good trend as a home favorite, and their opponent tonight has been a bad play as a road favorite. That is the Philadelphia 76ers. I looked this up earlier today. When the 76ers are a road dog, they have a terrible record. No Joel Embiid tonight. They are a road dog. They're coming off they only have 1 day of rest, but they have that West Coast schedule. I have the Jazz on the money line, everybody. Jazz on the money line. Next pick that we're giving out. Swamper Forever 44, who I got in Wisconsin, Nebraska. Clearly a popular pick for tonight, or a popular game to be betting on. I took Wisconsin on the money line, Nebraska +6, +6.5. Again, I'm worried about those free throws at the end of the game. Frost, any thoughts on the new defensive coordinator for the Ravens, Zach Orr, if you know anything about him? Well, I know he had a history of being a linebacker in the past. Overall, I'm really curious to know where the Baltimore Ravens go defensively from here. They had a brilliant defensive coordinator. I do think they'll take a step back in terms of strategy, but they have so much talent, and they'll add to it, obviously, this offseason and in the draft. So I'm not as worried about the Baltimore Ravens defense as I am for some of the other teams that have greater questions. Here's a good one, Frost. I'm more concerned about the Dallas Cowboys defense replacing Dan Quinn than I am about the Baltimore Ravens defense making that replacement for Mike McDonald. I actually think the Cowboys have a bigger task ahead of them. Joe Rock, what's your best college basketball pick tonight? I mentioned this earlier. I'm not very big on the college basketball scene tonight. Don't love the matchups thus far of the ones I've talked about. I probably like Arizona State on the money line the most, but I'm just I'm not attractive tonight. This is a awkward night of sports. We have some Pac-12 games, some Big Ten games, but overall, we're really waiting for a loaded weekend of college basketball matchups. Tonight isn't as exciting for me from a sports betting standpoint. Nico Rivera is asking about SMU on the spread. Let's go check out SMU, everybody. Again, if any of you guys want to join the show as a caller, feel free. Hit us up as a guest. We'll let you come on live on the show. You can ask your questions. Give us your takes about what's going on in the sports world. I just love engaging with you guys, hearing your takes, obviously going back and forth about what's happening. If we look at Tulane versus SMU, this is what they would say in Star Wars is a trap. Nico Rivera, you caught one of the traps of the night. So, in terms of total number of bets placed, the money line heavily favors SMU. But be careful. Almost half of the money that's actually being bet on the money line is on the Tulane Green Wave. As for the spread, Tulane has the is getting more money and more bets on the spread. If I had to go in any direction, I would take, let's put this one also up on the board, I would take Tulane plus 10.5. I don't think this will be a double-digit game, so Tulane plus 10.5. That's where I'd come down on it, Nico. Thanks for the question. But Jones should have bought Meta and Amazon options. I saw both of those went up. I've been holding Amazon for a long time now. We don't need to talk about the market, but Amazon has been a company that I've held on to for years. I've sold off shares of it when I needed some extra cash. Tesla was that company I rode for like 5 years. Every time it climbed, I'd just sell some of it and get some cash in my pocket. Amazon has been that for me now for years. The next company that I'm actually doing that with is Disney. I think Disney is too low. I think Disney's going to climb over the next 2-3 years. So actually, if you guys ever wanted to talk about the market, that's actually another area where I love doing research. To me, sports betting and stock trading are very similar. You look at data, trends, analytics, you study the market, the context, you try to get a sense of where things are going to go and just anticipate it just like you would with a sports bet. Frost, I think Orr was a decent hire. What I really like is the continuity of hiring from within the system. I don't think that the Ravens needed to go outside of the building to find the right guy. I do think the Ravens are going to be okay. Do I think they'll be the best defense in the league next year? I don't. But I think with a few additions to the secondary and the defensive line, this defense could be top 5 for the next 2-3 years. Swamper, really appreciate it, buddy. Very kind of you to say. Frost, any thoughts on the new defense corner? We got that. Diego, here's what I'm doing. Wisconsin money line. Got it. Cal plus 22.5. Interesting. ASU money line. Check. Oregon State 10.5. Check. And Oregon on the money line. Diego, based on the trends and data and the money being placed by the public, feels like those are some good bets you got for tonight, buddy. Joe Rock. Boom! Joe Rock just hit one of my favorite player prop bets of the night. We got to get this one up on the board. Jason Tatum over 24.5 points. This is one of my favorite bets of the night. Now, with no LeBron James, no Anthony Davis, am I worried about it? A little bit, because this could be a game where the Celtics get a big lead and decide to sit some of their starters in the fourth quarter. However, Jason Tatum grew up a Laker fan. He grew up, obviously, as we all know, a big Kobe fan. I think he gets up for these Laker and Celtic games. I put out earlier on my Instagram account that he has been averaging just shy of 25 points in the 13 career games he's played against the Lakers, and that includes some games earlier in his career with lower point totals. Really, over the last, let's say, 8 games that he's played against the Lakers, he's averaging around 30 points. So I think Jason Tatum over 24.5 points is a really good bet tonight. Joe Rock, love the pick, love the play, good find. Frost, I couldn't agree with you more. They need help in the secondary, and I think they need an edge rusher. We talked about it yesterday. I think Jadeveon Clowney is a good player. I don't think he is good enough to be your star edge rusher. If I'm the Ravens, I need another corner, probably another safety as well. Not as high a priority as the other corner, but an edge rusher, a top-tier edge rusher, is a high priority for me. Here's what I would say to Baltimore Ravens fans. This could be a very good draft for you. This is a heavy, offensively loaded draft. And I think the first round or two is going to be featuring a lot of offensive players, quarterbacks, offensive linemen, and specifically wide receivers. This is a loaded wide receiver class. What does that mean? It means some good defensive talent might actually slip in the draft. There may be such urgency to get top-tier offensive talent that some of the better defensive players just get overlooked. If I were the Ravens, I might commit my first 2 rounds to exactly that. Defensive edge rusher and somebody in the secondary. I think that would be a really good way for the Ravens to improve. Also curious to know what they do in free agency. Frost, I think McDonald really helped Clowney be elite. I totally agree with you. One of the things that McDonald did really well as defensive coordinator is come up with really good blitz schemes that had rushers coming off the edge, from the slot, from the corner, from the secondary position, like a Kyle Hamilton. I actually think that allowed Jadeveon Clowney even more one-on-one play, and because of that, he was able to get a bit more production than I think he will in systems that aren't as complex when it comes to the blitz. If there's a topic that you guys want to talk about, hit us up, all about it. Mr. Boomin, low-key want to rant about the Steelers and talk NBA. Mr. Boomin, what do you want to talk when it comes to the Steelers? For me, the Steelers' offseason is going to be entirely defined by their quarterback search. I think Michael Penix Jr. makes a lot of sense. I've been saying this for a while. Steelers, Minnesota Vikings, I think both would make a lot of sense for Michael Penix Jr. If they wanted to, if Seattle wanted to draft him and have him sit behind Geno Smith for a year, I'd get that as well. But I think the Steelers need to go get a quarterback. Look, Kenny Pickett ain't the guy. I'm saying it now. I think it's obvious to all of us. Kenny Pickett is a nice white boy who tries really hard at quarterback. The dude ain't talented enough. Kenny Pickett is not good enough to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's had moments, but frankly, even those moments didn't come from his arm. They more often came from his legs. He does not have the arm talent required to be an elite starting quarterback. And you're in a division that has elite starting quarterbacks. The Ravens have Lamar. The Bengals have Joe Burrow. Even Deshaun Watson in Cleveland superior to anything that the Steelers have. The Steelers must get a quarterback, and if they don't, they're going nowhere. I don't care about Tomlin's coaching. I don't care about the talent on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know if the NFL has ever been more of a quarterback-based league, and I think that the Steelers must get a quarterback if they're going to have any chance of really contending in what might be the toughest division in all of football. Mr. Boomin, do I see Kirk Cousins going to the Steelers? That isn't a fit for me. I actually think Kirk Cousins, he's smart enough to know that the Steelers aren't really a great environment for him. Do I think Kirk Cousins plays better in a dome? Yes. Do I think Kirk Cousins plays better when there's a system built for him? When he has elite wide receivers around him? Yes. I think Kirk Cousins in Pittsburgh would be a mistake. Joe Rock is asking about Isaiah Hartstein, and let's see his point total tonight. So, the Knicks obviously playing tonight. Knicks host the Indiana Pacers. 3-point spread on that one. Knicks are a heavy favorite for the money line. By the way, this is actually a really important note for you. The public, in terms of tickets, likes the Pacers. But the money's come down on the Knicks. I'll put this one up on my big board as well. I took the Knicks on the money line for tonight's game, and I took the Pacers at +7. So those are my two bets related to that game. Knicks on the money line, Pacers +7. I also favor the under in this game. Pacers, Knicks, I took the under at 240.5. 240.5. So Pacers, Knicks, under 240.5. Those are my three bets related to that game. Now let's go look at that player prop bet that Joe Rock was asking about. So we're looking at points for Hartston. Under 9.5. Good implied probability here. He has cashed the over 2 games in a row. Against centers, Pacers are an okay team. They're 13th in the NBA against centers in terms of points allowed. Overall, I tend to like the under. Here's my only question. How has he done with no Julius Randle in the lineup? Other than the last 2 games, he hasn't been that good. Let's look at home games. Only one home game this year without Julius Randle. He gone over the total, and that was against the Utah Jazz in their last game. How about in home games overall? He's only gone over 9.5 points in 1 out of his last 7 games. I tend to lean towards the under just slightly, Joe, but frankly, this isn't one that gets me too excited. Just not a bet I'm jumping at. If I were to take it anywhere, I might want to buy it up under 10.5, but frankly, again, not a player prop bet that really has my juices flowing. Tim, do you think the need to get quarterback song is Chicago? I'm a little confused by the question. Here's what I would say. I think the Chicago Bears are going to draft Caleb Williams. I think that the Bears organization is haunted by the fact that they passed on Patrick Mahomes and they passed on Deshaun Watson to get Mitch Trubisky. And I think that this organization is going to look at Caleb Williams and go, we can't make the same mistake again. So even though I think Justin Fields is progressing, I think Justin Fields is actually a good quarterback. But do I think Justin Fields would make sense in Pittsburgh? More so than Kirk Cousins. Do I think Justin Fields makes sense in Atlanta? More so than Pittsburgh. So for me, I do think Justin Fields gets traded. I think Caleb Williams is drafted by the Bears. If I were Pittsburgh, I would inquire about Justin Fields. But Michael Penix Jr., this guy, he's got big hands. He can throw the ball. He's got a much better arm than Kenny Pickett. That's who I would target. I'm not about Bo Nix. Michael Penix Jr., he's the one that could fall, ultimately, the Steelers in that middle of the first round. Thank you, IP Shade, for the cap. Thank you guys for the gifts. Really appreciate you. Kevin's asking about Derek White and 3-pointers. Let's check it out tonight. Derek White. What do we think about the 3-pointers from Derek White? By the way, I know he probably won't get it because the voting is really tough. Derek White deserves to be an all-star this year. If you've watched the Celtics at any point this year, you know that Derek White has been cash frickin' money for this team. Not just offensively, defensively, he has been an absolute stud. He is one of the best guard defenders in the NBA. I think he deserves to be in the all-star game. As for your 2.5 3-pointers, the implied probability, really good. 53% on the over, 50% on the under, and maybe even better. The Lakers are one of the worst teams at defending the 3-point position against shooting guards, which is how Derek White is now defined. Used to be a point guard, now he's a shooting guard. They're 21st in the league in 3 points allowed by the shooting guard. He has cashed on 7 of his last 10 games he's cashed on this. So I really like this overall. I would take Derek White over 2.5 3-pointers, Kevin. I do think that's a good bet. Good find. Nico, you think the Bears should keep Fields instead of Williams? Personally, yes, I would. If I were the Chicago Bears, this is what I would do. I would trade down with the Washington Commanders. I'd get their first round pick, number 2 pick overall, and another pick in the draft. I'd give them Caleb Williams or the right to draft him. I draft Marvin Harrison Jr. and I acquire draft capital to go with Marvin Harrison Jr. That's a home run for me. If the Bears, they have 2 first-round picks, they could acquire more picks by trading out of that number 1 spot. Trade the rights to the first overall pick to the Commanders so you don't lose the opportunity to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. You pair Marvin Harrison Jr. with DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, and a pretty good running game when they find the right person. I think that offense is good. The defense is really strong. Ever since they acquired Montez Sweat, the Bears were a top 10 defense in the NFL. So if you get the right pieces around Justin Fields, another offensive lineman, another wide receiver, I think the Bears could absolutely be a wild card contender next year. That's how I would play it if I'm the Bears. Do I think that's what they're going to do? No. I think the Bears are going to draft Caleb Williams for the reason I just said a moment ago. The idea that they passed on Patrick Mahomes when they had the number 2 overall pick a few years ago haunts them to this day, and I think they won't let Caleb Williams get past them given that history and that disappointing failure. Jimmy, I don't like Nebraska on the money line. I'm taking Wisco on the money line. Wisconsin on the money line. Nebraska to cover the spread. Frost, I think the Patriots don't get a top 2 QB. They go Marvin Harrison Jr. Frost, I don't think you could be farther off base here. I think that actually is one of the colder takes. I don't see any way the Patriots don't draft a quarterback. The Patriots have not had an opportunity to draft a quarterback this high in the draft since Drew Bledsoe. There is no way the Patriots don't draft a quarterback. The only way they wouldn't is if they made some trade for Justin Fields. Do I think they're going to do that? No. I would put the mortgage down. Not that you should, but I would put the mortgage down that the Patriots are going to draft a quarterback with that top 3 pick. I don't think it's really up for debate. I even think the Patriots have given indications through the media that they're going to go try and attack that QB position through the draft. I think Jaden Daniels would make the most sense. I still think they would draft Drake May if Jaden Daniels is taken ahead by the Commanders. I don't see almost any way Marvin Harrison Jr. lands with the Patriots because the fan base and the front office are actually simpatico on this. They're aligned. It's quarterback in that number 1 slot or bust. I really don't see them drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. Wild Guap, Tobias Harris over 23.5 points. I looked at this one earlier and I really was on the fence about it. I thought this might be a good play, but I was just like, man, I don't have enough faith in it. So Tobias Harris, I did look at this one earlier in the day, 23.5 points. The implied probability is on the under 23.5 points has the better implied probability. I'll look at it on the over just for your sake. Hasn't been a very good trend. Has only cashed 2 out of the last 7 games. That's not appealing to me. Now let's look at it with Joel Embiid out. How has he done? Only 3 out of the last 7 games has this cashed on the over. If I extend it out, no Joel Embiid. 2 times in the last 10 games on the road. I do not like that bet. Wild Guap, I'd actually take Tobias Harris under 23.5 points if I had to go in any direction. Against the powered forward position, I know the Jazz have been very bad. Maybe that's what inspires confidence, but I just don't have enough faith in Tobias Harris tonight. Feels like a bit of a trap at 23.5. If you wanted to take this at 19.5, I get it. Over 19.5, that's available right now at minus 119 over on Prize Picks. On FanDuel, minus 230. DraftKings, minus 235. Still pretty good odds. I think he gets to 20 points. I don't think he gets to 24. Appreciate you guys being with us. Hope you guys are loving the content and loving the show. If you do, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Kick. And again, if any of you guys want to join the show, more than welcome to do so over on TikTok. Just hit me up as a guest. We'll take your call and get you on the air. You think Maxey is out as well. Hadn't seen that. Tyrese Maxey. Game time decision. I'm seeing game time decision on Tyrese Maxey. By the way, for all those who could see my screen over on YouTube, Twitch, or Kick, one of the reasons I love the Outlier app, not only can I go through the stats and the trends, not only can I break it down by players available, a home and away, head-to-head against the Jazz, I can also see who's on the injury report tonight, so I can be aware of that Tyrese Maxey status as I make my bets. If you guys want a free 7-day trial for Outlier, DM me on Instagram. I promise you, it is the best 7 days of information you'll have access to. You'll probably end up subscribing because it's that good a research tool. Again, Outlier, all you got to do is DM me on Instagram, ButtFumbleSports. That's my Instagram handle, ButtFumbleSports. DM me on Instagram. A free 7-day trial for Outlier will be in your future. Majomes, Disney earnings, February 7th. Are we buying? Majomes, as I mentioned earlier, I'm already on Disney, but I bought them a while ago when they were a bit lower, so I don't want to advise necessarily that you should buy so close to earnings. They might have a tough earnings season because they don't have as much content in the pipeline because there was that writer strike, but I usually don't like to do day trading. I like to do longer term trading, so I like Disney over the next 2-3 years. Sit on that stock, allow that company to get back into good graces, especially now that Bob Iger is back in control. No Bob Chapek anymore. They're going to eliminate a lot of waste, a lot of cost, and they're going to increase their revenue with good deals. One thing I love about Bob Iger is his ability to make good deals, good acquisitions. Frost, do you see a world where the Patriots trade up to number 1? No, and the only reason for that isn't about the Patriots. It's about the Bears and the Commanders. I think it's going to be really hard for the Patriots. By the way, the Patriots roster is so depleted of talent, I don't think they can afford to trade other draft capital to go chase the quarterback. They need a complete roster rebuild. So I don't think the Patriots are going to be able to trade up from 3 to 1. It would take too much capital. Now, there are other teams I could see making that kind of crazy move, but I don't think the Patriots are going to be one of them. IP Shade 45, no LeBron, no AD. It's going to be a bloodbath against the Celtics tonight. Yeah, I like the Celtics pretty heavy on the money line. I'm even taking the Celtics on the spread at -8. If any of you guys want to join the show as a guest, hit us up. I love talking to you guys. No matter where you are, no matter what you want to talk about, hit us up as a guest. Join the show. We can have a good conversation about what's going on in the sports world. So if you want to join the show as a guest, hit us up, everybody. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, or Kick, feel free to write your comment in the comment section. We're answering them right now, like Mr. Boomin. Jazz -4.5 to play. I do like the Jazz on the cover. I love the Jazz on the money line. That would be the play for me. Parlay Jazz money line and Celtics money line. I feel like that's a really strong bet. But if you want to take Jazz -4.5, I'd be about it. Frost, is Tatum delusional for saying Porzingis is the POW to his Kobe? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, that wasn't quite the comment he said. He said Porzingis was the missing piece in the same way that Pau Gasol was the missing piece for that Lakers championship run, and he is absolutely right. He is 100% correct. What the Celtics were missing and acquired with the addition of Porzingis isn't just a big who can rim protect like Robert Williams could. It's the ability to extend the floor, a three-point shooter at 7'2". That's killer. How are you supposed to defend Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Drew Holiday, and you have to account for a 7'2" center who can step out and shoot from 3? I absolutely agree with Tatum. I think Porzingis was the missing piece. And maybe most importantly, and this actually matches the Pau Gasol point, these are two bigs who have no ego. Porzingis has no ego. Pau Gasol had no ego. They are willing to be the sidekick to a Kobe Bryant, to a Jason Tatum. They want to be a good complementary piece, but they bring no ego. They don't demand the ball. They're good teammates. I think Tatum's comment is 100% accurate, and I do think Porzingis was the missing piece for them. Yoba, what's good? Teaser, Chiefs +7.5. Love it. Over 41.5. I think I like that one as well. I mentioned earlier in the show, I like the under 50 points in the Super Bowl. But if you can get Chiefs plus 7.5 and the over on 41, I think those are two good bets, Yoba. Sanchez, Cal plus 19. Just not the direction we went in. Not taking it. Miguel, I do like D'Angelo Russell. One area of the Celtics defense that has struggled is the point guard defense, actually. They give up a lot of points to opposing point guards. Now, I will say the implied probability is on the under. Under is the better implied probability for D'Angelo Russell, but the Celtics are 28th in point guard points allowed. That is a standout note. D'Angelo Russell has been scorching hot of late. He didn't have a good game in his last game against the Hawks, but prior to that, he had a nice string of going over 20 points. That's probably where I would take it tonight. Take him at over 19.5 points. I think that's probably the play, Miguel. Not where the current line is set, but take it at over 19.5 points. I feel better about that one. They'll need his scoring tonight. Rika, Arizona covering the 19.5. We've been talking about this one a little bit. I didn't take that game. Just not attractive to me. Appreciate you guys being with us. Hope you guys are loving the show. Is it just me, or did the last 45 minutes absolutely fly by? Talking sports with you guys every day is one of my greatest joys. I hope you guys love the content. I hope you love joining us every day. Make sure you follow. Make sure you subscribe. We are live on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Kick Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern and on the weekends at 12 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you follow. That way you never miss the show, never miss the conversation, the research, or any of my rants on what's going on in the sports world. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, I really think the Dan Quinn move is a mistake by the Washington Commanders. I thought there were other options they could go with. Specifically, I thought they should have gone in the offensive direction. They're going to draft a young quarterback. I'd rather have an offensive mind who can tutor that young quarterback and prepare them for success. I've seen too many times a defensive coach drafts a young rookie quarterback and they just don't seem to get the connection. I think the Los Angeles Chargers are a perfect example of that. If I were the Washington Commanders, I wouldn't have gone with Dan Quinn. I understand it brings stability, it brings experience. I just don't think it brings the right side of the ball. I actually really think the Washington Commanders were banking on the fact that they were going to get Ben Johnson. Now, there have been a couple of rumors that have come out in the last 2 days that actually the Commanders turned down Ben Johnson. That's bullshit. That's absolutely bullshit. The Washington Commanders wanted Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson turned down the Commanders to stay with the Lions. So the Commanders can change the narrative all they want, but in reality, it was Ben Johnson who turned down Washington, and I think it left Washington with little options, fewer options, and I think that's why Dan Quinn got the job. They didn't like who was left. I actually think that the Commanders were waiting too long to hire Ben Johnson because the Lions run through the NFC playoffs, and I think that actually kept them from going after other head coaches that would have been a better fit. Rika, I do like Utah on the under. Good call, good call. Do you see a world where the Ravens trade back to get more draft capital? Absolutely, absolutely, I think that's right. By the way, the Patriots have hired a new offensive coordinator for all those out there. Patriots got a new offensive coordinator. If you guys have questions, comments, there are topics you want to rant about, put them in the chat, put them in the comment section. Anyone wants to come on the show as a guest, you're more than welcome to do so. I love talking to you guys every day, so feel free. No matter the topic, Butt Fumble Sports is here for it. What else is going on? I saw the press conference featuring Jim Harbaugh. Man, is that dude excited to be in Southern California? You could tell. Rika Steeler, I'm not going to take Celtics Lakers on the under. There are too many trends that kind of go in conflicting directions. I'm not taking the total in that one. Frost, do you think that Michael Pittman Jr. could be a good receiver along with Zay Flowers? Outstanding. I would love that acquisition if they could sign him in free agency. I think Michael Pittman Jr. with Zay Flowers would be a home run. Two guys who get a ton of receptions, good hands, utilized in different ways, and yet both are very consistent. I think that would be an outstanding pair. You put Pittman and Flowers along with Andrews and Likely. That is a really good four receiver combo, four pass catcher combo. I think that's a great idea, Frost. Would Pittman want money or winning more? I don't know. I don't know. That's one in which I really haven't done my due diligence on what Michael Pittman Jr. is trying to get out of his free agency experience. It's tough because he comes from a team that didn't do a lot of winning in the Colts, so maybe he wants to scratch that itch. But for a lot of guys, when they reach that first contract, that first contract after their rookie contract, aka their second in the league, they're usually trying to make bank. They're usually trying to make generational wealth for their family. So hard for me to predict how Michael Pittman Jr. is going to play that one. Memphis under 215. Memphis under 215. Didn't bet that one either. There are certain games tonight that I touched and others I didn't. Under 215 feels like the better play based on the trends, but it also felt like a very low total. If I had to go in any direction on this, I'd probably take the under at like, I don't know, let's say, I'd probably go under 220, 220 and a half. That's probably where I'd take it. Under 220, 220 and a half. Diego, yes we do. I just brought that one up. Yes we do, Diego. Appreciate you guys being with us. Are you guys excited for this weekend of college basketball? Some really good matchups, obviously headlined by Duke UNC. Frost, if the Ravens do keep Stanley, which I think they should, I would predict them to restructure his contract heavily. I think they will keep Stanley. I think the Ravens understand how close they are to the Super Bowl. Don't blow up that offensive line. It'll be harder to rebuild than you think. Getting your reaction. What do you think the Steelers should do about their quarterback situation? I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the show. Michael Penix Jr. He's the guy I would target if I were the Steelers. Makes a lot of sense for me. I think Michael Penix Jr. would fit that offense well. He's got big hands, which means I don't think he'll be bothered by the cold. He's got a big arm. One thing we can't say about Kenny Pickett. If I were the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, it'd be Michael Penix Jr. that I'd be targeting because you can both acquire him. You don't have to trade up. He'll fall to you in the first round. Makes a lot of sense for me. That's what I would do. And frankly, I'd move on from Kenny Pickett. You want to keep him fine just to have him there in the room, but I think Kenny Pickett is a nothing. I thought he was a nothing when they drafted him. I thought he was a nothing the last couple of years. I think Kenny Pickett is a loser. Not a loser in terms of a person, loser in terms of he will not win you anything in the NFL. Can he win you a playoff game? No. I don't think he can get you a division. I don't think he can get you a playoff game. I think he can get you to a Super Bowl. I am not about Kenny Pickett. Not going to lie. White and Brown over 25 plus points. Let's see. Majomes. I'm not touching that. Majomes, don't ask that question. Don't do that. Let's go to White and Brown. Let's look at them on points. Derek White, specifically looking at him on points. 25 plus points. If it's combined, I like it, but Derek White's point total right now is set at 15.5. So if you're thinking it gets to 25, that ain't going to happen. I think that would be an outlier. Jaylen Brown, do I think he could get to 25 points? Yes, I do, but I tend to lean towards the under there as well. Under 23.5 has a better implied probability against the small forward position. Lakers are okay. Obviously, no LeBron James. But no, I'm not taking Jaylen Brown. I'm not taking Derek White tonight. Rika agrees with me as a Steelers fan. There you go. Diego, Bo Nix draft stock rising fast. He could be in Minnesota or Denver. Yeah, he could. I could see him in a couple places. Do I think Bo Nix is overrated? Absolutely. I think Bo Nix is really overrated. I don't actually think that he's a first-round talent. I think he's closer to an early second-round talent. I think Minnesota does make sense. I think Denver does make sense. But look out for the Denver Broncos to trade up. I think Minnesota and Denver are both teams that are going to try and trade up in the first round to go after Drake May. Because it seems like Drake May is kind of the third of the quarterback options right now. Caleb Williams 1, Jaden Daniels 2, Drake May 3rd. I think the Denver Broncos and the Minnesota Vikings are going to pursue him very heavily. And I do think if they don't get him, Bo Nix would be a nice secondary prize. Jorge, Drew Holiday, 13.5 points. OG, okay, Jorge, I don't know about Mitchell on assists. I don't know about Drew Holiday on points. OG Anunoby, I freaking love that bet. OG Anunoby over half a block. Interesting you found that one. I actually took OG Anunoby over 1.5 steals plus blocks. I love that bet. It was one of my favorite player prop bets of the day. Big call, good pick there, Jorge. Is Tatum the only one that of the overs I like? Yeah, probably Arctic Tiger. Frankly, I think the Celtics are going to pull their foot off the gas. I think Jason Tatum could have a good game just based on his history against the Lakers, but I think the Celtics could be resting a lot of their starters come the second half. I think that Joe Mazzulla will see how this game plays out with no Anthony Davis or LeBron James on the other side of the floor. This might be a big Peyton Pritchard game. In fact, I kind of want to look up Peyton Pritchard. Oh, it's not even available. That sucks. I wanted to look up Peyton Pritchard point total. Sam Hauser. If any of you guys can find a Sam Hauser or Peyton Pritchard point total, might be a good night to take those two guys. Everyone QB drops after 3. Jorge, couldn't agree with you more. Those top 3 quarterbacks are elite caliber quarterbacks. I think Michael Penix Jr. would be the only one that could maybe sneak into the conversation at 4. But other than that, I do think the quarterback conversation certainly drops off. Diego, if Denver trades up, Surtain will end up in Washington or New England. Wow, would that be a mistake? Would that be a mistake? Patrick Surtain II, you could argue, is the best cornerback in the NFL. I think Patrick Surtain II is a foundational piece for the next 8 years. If I were Denver, I would not trade Patrick Surtain II. I'd be willing to trade draft capital. I would not be willing to trade Patrick Surtain II. Getting a lockdown, shutdown corner is so hard. I wouldn't make that move. I would not do it. Caleb, overhyped and overtalked. We've talked about this a little bit. I think Caleb Williams' talent isn't overhyped. I think physically his athletic ability is actually accurate to what we're seeing. I don't think it's overrated. I think his leadership skills, that's overrated. I don't get the vibe that the USC Trojans team really loved their time with Caleb Williams in the same way that LSU loved their time with Jaden Daniels. I would be concerned about that, but in terms of athletic ability, arm talent, no, Caleb Williams is not overrated. Let's not make mistakes now. Caleb Williams is that good a quarterback. I just think his leadership skills could use some work. Additionally, one of the things that has me concerned about him, the comments he's made about his expectations for compensation in his rookie contract are absolutely delusional. That tells me he could be a diva, a prima donna when it comes to contract negotiations. But in terms of on-field talent, no, Caleb Williams has got it. He does. He has it. Jorge, Pritchard and Hauser at 6.5 points. I take both of them. I think both are going to get to at least 8 points in this game. Frost, do you think Trent Simpson could fill the hole if Patrick Queen leaves? I think he could, but frankly, I think Patrick Queen leaving would be a bad blow to the Ravens. They'd have to draft another linebacker. This isn't a great linebacker draft. I think the tandem of Queen and Roquan Smith was such a dynamic duo. Part of the reason that I really hope for Ravens' sake that they can keep Patrick Queen. Michael Pratt is my sleeper QB. Interesting. Hate his personality, but it's how he's built and how people make him. Yeah. Appreciate you guys being with us. Hope you guys are loving the show. Jorge, I like OG on the block. Other than that, I'm not taking those other 2 bets. They just don't excite me. There's nothing about them that gets me going. Pritchard could play more, but could see Hauser making the 3 threes. Jorge, completely agree with you. Keep in mind, though, Peyton Pritchard's a good little player when it comes to actually playing around the rim. He gets some layups. He actually gets more second chance points than you think. So Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard, 2 Celtics I'd have my eye on. Given this might be a game in which the Celtics get out to an early lead, get out to a second half lead, and then take their foot off the gas, play some of their players in reserve, given that this should be a game that they have in hand. Jorge hopped on here because you weren't paying attention. I got you. I pay attention to both. Frost, I think there will never be Mr. Irrelevant that is better or matches Purdy's skills. I don't agree with you, and this is why I say this. I think Mr. Irrelevant will never be irrelevant again. I think it changed everything. In the same way, when Tom Brady had his success, and I'm not comparing Purdy and Tom Brady in terms of accomplishment, but being drafted late, I don't think we're ever going to look at a 6th round quarterback the same way. And I think Mr. Irrelevant, that last pick of the draft, all of a sudden has greater value. I think people all of a sudden go, Hey, you can get a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. You can get a leader, a Super Bowl caliber quarterback with that last pick of the draft. I never ever think Mr. Irrelevant will be as irrelevant as it once was. I think the NFL has wised up to it. Sam Merrill today with Mobley out. Okay, Jorge, interesting take. Marshall college basketball tonight. Man, let's see what we think about Marshall. Let's jump on over to the game picks tonight for college basketball. This is when you know we've entered the part of the calendar year that's just a bit of a struggle. Do I want to bet on Marshall basketball? I don't. Will Marshall basketball ever get a cent of my money? It won't. I don't care what it is. It's just not something that I would bet on. If you guys are looking for it, feel free. More than happy to do the research for you guys. But it's a sign that the NFL season is over when we're looking at Marshall basketball as a place to put our bets. Yikes. Yikes. Still looking for Marshall, actually. I don't even see them. I don't even see them on the docket. Yeah, wow. There's no part of Marshall that I want. I mean, like... Oh, there they are against Old Dominion. This isn't anything I want. If there's any note that I take from looking at how the public's bet it, I take Old Dominion on the spread. I'd probably buy the points. I'd take Old Dominion probably at something like plus 12.5. That would be the play for me. But honestly, this isn't a bet I like. I take Old Dominion plus 12.5 if I had to do anything. But you're really forcing my hand on that one. Do you see Zeitler staying with the Ravens or leaving for a different team? I think he's going to stay. Appreciate you guys being with us. Hope you guys have loved the show tonight. I think that's where we're going to call it. It's been about an hour of show. I'm not feeling the questions right now. Just a lot of questions and games that I'm not really into. So I think that's going to be the show for us today. I hope you guys have loved the content and loved the show. Make sure you hit the follow button. Make sure you're subscribing. I will be back on live at 5 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, because if it's a day of the week, Butt Fumble Sports tries to be live every single day. So make sure you hit that follow button. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you guys at 5 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow for another episode of the Butt Fumble Sports Daily Show. Until then, have a great night, everybody. Enjoy whatever sports action's on your screen. And I will catch you guys at 5 p.m. tomorrow. Stay healthy, stay safe. I'll see you then. Goodbye, everybody.